Protein is everywhere right now. It's in your cereal, your pancakes, your water. I saw protein popcorn at the store last week. Everybody's slapping high protein on the label and calling it health food. But here's what nobody's telling you. Not all protein is actually created equal. And some of those labels, honestly, are incredibly misleading. So today we're breaking down what protein actually is, why your body needs it, and how to get it right, whether you eat meat or you are fully plant-based. Why do we keep going back to quick fixes, even when we know they don't work? Welcome to the Coach's Hotline. Glucose, grit, and grace. Real talk with coaches, no sugarcoating.
We're here to help you ditch the diet cycle, stabilize blood sugar, and finally feel at home in your body.
Because health isn't about restriction. It's about freedom, energy, and confidence.
Let's dive in. Welcome back to Glucose, Grit, and Grace, the podcast where we talk blood sugar, mindset, and real life, no sugarcoating. I'm Coach Amber, and I've got my two favorite coaches with me, as always, Coach Elaine and Coach Elaine.
Hello.
So today we are talking about the macro of the moment, which is protein. It's the P in PFC3. It is the building block for your entire body. And it's also, without question, the most hyped, most marketed, and most misunderstood nutrient on the shelf right now. So we're going to cut through the noise together. And coaches, have you seen what I've been seeing in the grocery stores?
It is absolutely crazy. You stand at the checkout line and you see protein chips and protein candy bars and protein this and protein that. And I just have to shake my head.
I even saw protein ketchup. I was
What?
like,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, the marketing
there's
around
a new
that is
one.
amazing.
It
Mhm.
is. It is. It's definitely a buzzword right now.
It really is. Okay, so before we talk about all of the protein products that are out there, and we could talk for days on how many products are out there, but let's back way up. When we say protein, what is it actually doing in our bodies? Because I think most people know they're supposed to eat protein, but couldn't necessarily tell you why.
And I think that's so important for us to understand because we tend to think of protein as something that bodybuilders drink before or after their workout so they can build those muscles and stuff like that. But what we have to realize is that protein is the main building block of our body. Every tissue that you have, your muscles, your skin, your hair, your organs, um, it's built and repaired and maintained by protein. Like I said, it's not just a fitness thing. Your body is literally under construction 24/7, and protein is the raw material that it needs.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I learned when I kind of took on this lifestyle, which I thought was really interesting that no one had taught me before, is that protein's made up of chains of what we call amino acids. And here's the key: some of these amino acids your body can make itself, which is awesome. Again, another one of the miraculous things that our body does. And these are called non-essential. So while they're essential, they're non-essential because our body creates them. So we don't necessarily have to. It's great if we can give it to our body, but we know we can depend on our body to create these. But there are others that our body cannot make no matter what. And these are called the essential amino acids. And the only way that we can get these essential amino acids is through food. Um, Now, that essential has a lot of work going on it. It means it's non negotiable. We have to have all of those. in order to keep our body functioning correctly and rebuilding.
For sure. And also for the women listening, it matters even more after 40 when you hit perimenopause and menopause, because we naturally start losing muscle as we age. And it's muscle that keeps our metabolism humming. It's muscles um, that that need the protein. Protein is the muscle's fuel. So when we're talking about protein, we're really talking about protecting your strength, your energy, your metabolism for the next several decades. I always say that muscles are longevity, because if you don't have muscles, you don't have balance, you don't have strength, you can't get up off the toilet one day and you're going to end up in a nursing home. So that's how essential muscles are. And therefore, we need protein to feed the muscles.
Well, and I will be honest. For the 40 years of dieting that I did, nobody ever explained to me about protein. And I was honestly one of those people who thought protein was for bodybuilders. And so I would drink protein shakes when I was working out because that made good sense to my brain. But other than that, I was eating salads with no protein and wondering why I was starving an hour later and losing muscle instead of fat.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I was 100% one of those people. Okay, so protein equals building blocks, and some of those blocks we can only get them from food. But here's where it gets really interesting, and here's where those labels start getting sneaky because there's actually two types of protein, and your body treats them very differently. So let's break this down. Complete versus incomplete. What's the difference, and why should anybody standing in the cereal aisle care?
Well, I'll take that one. So, a complete protein, like Elaine referred to, that contains all of the essential amino acids that our body needs, the ones that we can't make. And so, the complete protein has that in one serving. And when you eat a complete protein, your body can put it to work immediately. It doesn't have to, it just breaks it down. And interestingly, it breaks it down into the smallest molecule. And
Mm.
so it actually, when your body is absorbing protein, it only absorbs like one molecule of it at a time. But that's how it's just fascinating to me how that works. But as it's absorbing that complete protein that it didn't have to do anything to, it just broke down and got into your blood. You can think of it as like getting a delivery with everything that you need right away. It's like a Christmas tree in a box, right? That you just open up and put up. It's all right there. And you can start using it right away.
That, and that's what's, so let's go on and talk about an incomplete protein. So an incomplete protein, like we talked earlier, is made up of amino acids. An incomplete protein is missing one or more of those essential amino acids. So your body can't fully use it on its own. It has to be combined with another protein source to fill in the missing pieces from those non-essential to get from the non-essential and the essential in order to bring those all together.
Mm.
Um, so think of it also, I know Elaine just talked about that Christmas tree in a box, but it has to be combined with the other proteins. So think about if you're getting a bookshelf and it's delivered and you only get half of the nuts and bolts and screws that you need. So there's still value. Maybe you can put up half the shelves, but you're not going to be able to get full utilization of that bookshelf without all the screws. So, where did complete proteins come from? Mostly from animal sources. So,
Mm-hmm.
chicken, fish, eggs, grass fed beef, turkey, shrimp. But there are some plant based complete proteins too. And this surprises many people. So, soy, tofu, tempeh, edamame, plus quinoa and chia seeds. Have you ever made chia seed pudding? And
Mm-hmm.
hemp hearts. Those are complete proteins. So again, you need to look at that. Again, most of your complete protein is from animal sources, but you can get some of it from plant sources as well.
And I
All
just
right.
want to
Oh,
interject in here just real quick, because if you are just eating plant proteins, often you have to have three different plant
mhm.
proteins, the incomplete proteins, in order to give your body what it needs. So that's why if you're looking like at a protein shake, you need to make sure that it has three sources of protein. So often it'll say it has like pea protein, pumpkin protein, and it could say, what's the other one that often is in there? Rice protein, sometimes chia, and other things. So you want to look for three higher protein vegetarian sources, but you need to have three together to get everything that you need.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up because while they are incomplete, there is a way to pair them so they can become complete. And so you can live 100% plant-based and still get the protein that you need. It just needs to look a little different.
Yeah, you have to have a
So,
lot of variety.
exactly, right. So now here's where I want to connect this to the name of our show because this is the Glucose Grit and Grace podcast, and protein has everything to do with your blood sugar.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you hear that? It has everything to do with your blood sugar. So, walk us through what happens hormonally when we eat protein.
Yeah. And again, this was an eye opener for me when I learned this lifestyle.
Hmm.
But when you eat a complete protein, your body releases a hormone called glucagon. And glucagon's body is to raise your blood sugar. Now, that might sound like a bad thing, but just keep listening here because insulin's job is to lower your blood sugar. So when you eat protein with your meal, the glucagon and insulin work against each other in the best possible way. They balance each other out, and that balance that is a stable blood sugar. That's the steady energy, the no 3 p.m. crash, the no shakiness, the no raiding their pantry. Also, think that protein helps to slow digestion. So instead of getting that quick sugar fix and crash, it helps to create that steady release, which again is pairing with your insulin. So
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how all that works.
it
And
is.
this is exactly why eating carbs by themselves, even if it's like a piece of fruit and you think, but it's healthy, but it's a carb by itself. So
Right.
this is what sends you on that roller coaster. But eating a carb with a complete protein, that's what keeps you in that steady balance, right? So the protein isn't just building muscle, that's its main job, but it's actively managing your glucose in real time.
Well, and it's no secret that I have been on this dieting spiral roller coaster for decades. But definitely having like toast for breakfast and then starving by 9:30. 100% thought it was a me problem. It was a willpower problem, uh, but it was a hormone problem.
Right.
And nobody was telling me that I just needed to balance my insulin. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the grocery store shelf because here's where the marketing gets crazy slippery. Talk to me about what high protein on a label actually means and what it doesn't mean.
Well, this kind of refers back to what I was talking about earlier, because
Hmm.
often you'll see high protein on plant based products. And a lot of the time, you're looking at those incomplete proteins. It will say, it has nuts in it, so it's high protein. You'll have beans or chickpeas in it, and they'll say it's high protein pasta if it's chickpea pasta. Yes, they are higher in protein than other most plant foods. So that part is true, but it's incomplete. It's an incomplete protein. So when you have a chickpea pasta, for example, yes, you're getting some protein, but you need to add a couple of different plant-based proteins with it in order to get that complete essential amino acids that your body needs. So the label is technically accurate, right? It's telling you it has protein in it, but it's only telling you half the story. And here's the other thing. They tell you high protein, and if you look at the label, and the label says 9 grams of protein. 9 grams of protein is less than half of what you need for a meal. So it is not high protein. It is not a protein meal. It has protein in it. So you can't fully use this protein that they're adding to all this snack food in a way that the marketing is implying. So, and then I talked about the label, right? So when you're in that cereal aisle or the ketchup aisle and you look at high protein ketchup, flip it over
Yeah,
and look what also is in that label, because there's more sugar, there's processed and artificial ingredients, and a sprinkle of protein powder in something does not turn candy into health food.
exactly.
So true.
And that's my big concern with all of these protein things is when you look at all of the other additives and stuff that are put in there. So, that gets to be very concerning for me. So, anyway, definitely read those labels.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and my husband and I teach a class biweekly at a library. And we teach PFC3. And my husband and I are not we're meat eaters. But it's so interesting, a good majority of the people in our class are not meat eaters. They're not necessarily vegan, but they really prefer not to eat a lot of meat, or they are 100% plant-based. So and I imagine that we've got listeners who are also saying, okay, this is great information, but I don't eat meat. And I know we've touched on it a little bit, but I do want us to go a little bit deeper so that people really do understand that just because they don't eat meat, they're not doomed. So let's talk about how they get protein for our plant-based friends.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a big difference between whole food plant-based eating and just vegan.
Mm-hmm.
So grocery stores are packed with processed vegan products right now. You have I'm going to call like impossible meats, you have the vegan snacks, and all of it is loaded with preservatives and additives and ingredients that I know I can't pronounce. So, all in the name of plant-based eating. So, if it came from the factory with 20 ingredients, the fact that it's technically vegan doesn't necessarily make it good for your body. True plant-based nutrition is based on whole foods, as close as they grew as possible.
Yeah, and I
So
think oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
go right, go right ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think, and I am guilty of this until I learned better,
Yeah.
but people think, oh, well, you're vegan, so all you eat is health food.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And we've got these labels, and things that we think are healthy and that qualify as health food. But Elaine, as you just explained to us, if it's that highly processed, there's nothing healthy about it. It just doesn't have like meat in it. And I find that fascinating.
I know, I do too. But and I think a long time ago, and I guess time is relative, but when people first started, I mean, there's always been people who haven't eaten meat. Or haven't or have been vegan or vegetarian. So people who didn't eat meat, they had a base and it was probably more natural. But then you get the marketing involved. And then people start saying, look, this is becoming a thing now for people to eat vegan or vegetarian. So let's see what we can do to help them. So that's where I think a lot of the market has grown, and you just really need to be careful of what you're buying at the store. So, the other thing is like we mentioned earlier, Not everything, especially if you just need to be careful if you're vegan or vegetarian, because when you get those meals, not everything has all of those essential amino acids. So, like we mentioned earlier, tofu, tempeh, and edamame, and that's soy. So, enjoy it in moderation. But then
Mhm.
you have the quinoa, chia seeds, hemp hearts. Nutritional yeast is a great source. Buckwheat, amaranth, and Ezekiel bread. These should be your anchors when you're looking at your plant-based diet. So maybe kind of start with those and then add in so you can make sure you're getting those essential amino acids.
I love that. And also, like we talked about earlier, combining incomplete proteins. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of vegetables with protein in them, broccoli, peas, these kinds of things. And maybe, I don't know, when you were growing up, you heard of the combination of beans and rice. And beans and rice together make a complete protein. And it's true because they each have incomplete proteins, but together they make a complete protein. So think of all of your meals as beans and rice meals, not that you're eating beans and rice for every meal, but think of that idea in that you want to bring as much variety into your diet as possible so that you are getting more combinations of complete proteins. But here's the thing, and this is the piece that almost nobody talks about because there's a blood sugar catch, right? So a lot of the incomplete plant proteins are what we would call carby foods, right? They're beans and chickpeas
Mhm.
and lentils. They're dense carbohydrates. So if you're only sticking to those, and if you stack beans and chickpeas and rice into one meal to complete your protein, yes, you did, but you also built in a blood sugar spike out of health food. So you have to be very careful about what you're doing. So stick with your protein vegetables if you're having a dense carb. If you're having rice, have lots of cabbage and broccoli and snow peas and green peas and all of these things that have a little bit of protein in them. And then you get that variety. So you pair one dense carb with other lighter options instead of stacking dense carbs on dense carbs.
I love that. And so, and I think these two get thrown in the same pot a lot, but vegetarians versus fully vegan, they're very different situations. Is that correct?
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, vegetarians actually have a kind of a built-in advantage
Mm.
because they will eat eggs and dairy, which are a complete animal protein without eating the meat. So an egg is one of the most perfect proteins on the planet. Now, it also has a fat in it because of the yolk, but if you're vegetarian, you do can add these as some of your anchors as well. For those who are fully vegan, one of the most practical tools is a high quality, clean protein shake. So a couple of these a day can help close that complete protein gap without turning every meal into like, get me a spreadsheet, give me a math problem and a calculator so I can figure out how much protein I'm getting. But the key word here is clean and short ingredient list, but you also want to make sure it is a complete protein source and that it doesn't have a lot of sugar in there and the type of sugar. You really need to be careful on some of the sugars that they do put in most protein drinks.
Well, and I want everyone out there to notice what we're not saying. We're not saying that plant-based eating doesn't work. We're saying it works when you're intentional. And so it's not more restriction, it's more information. And that's the whole spirit of this show. We really want people to know that whether you do eat meat or you are fully plant-based, this is still a lifestyle that everybody can have uh, to achieve blood sugar stabilization and their optimal health. It just looks different depending on what you want to consume. All right, so let's go ahead and bring this home. This is the grit and grace time. So here's how I want to frame this week. Ladies, please give me the grit first. What's the action for our listeners?
So I think from the grit standpoint, this week, look at those labels. They are so important. Every time you see something that is labeled protein on the package, flip it over and these two questions. Number one, is it a complete protein? And number two, what else came along for the ride? Is it all the sugar? Are there things there that I can't even pronounce? You don't have to change everything. Just look.
That's awesome. Well, I'll jump in with the grace because that's the other part of what we're about. And the grace is you don't need to overhaul everything today. Just noticing the difference between complete and incomplete proteins. That's a 1% shift. Looking at the label and being a label detective, that's a 1% shift. You don't have to overhaul everything, but Amber, you said something beautiful a few minutes ago. It's about being intentional. And that's really over everything what we teach in the 100 days of 1%, right? It's about being aware and being intentional. And so just start being aware. When you pick up that package of protein popcorn, see what the protein really is, right? And maybe if you want popcorn, maybe it's better to just eat an egg first or eat some chia seed pudding first and then have your popcorn because that would be better whole food combining. So, anyway, that awareness alone will start changing your choices without any white knuckling it or dealing with overwhelm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And remember, this was never just about eating protein. It's about eating a complete protein with a fat and a carb every 3 hours. That's the formula, and that's what keeps your blood sugar steady, your energy up, and those pantry raids in the rearview mirror. So here's your challenge at your very next meal. Not tomorrow and not next week, but your next meal. Look at your plate and ask, do I have a protein? And is it complete? And if the answer is no, what's one small pairing that you could add to that meal to complete it? And that's it. One meal and one question. So that's a wrap on the protein craze. If this episode cleared some things up for you, share it with a friend who's got protein cereal in her pantry right now, because you know who she is. And if you are plant based, DM us your biggest protein question. We'd love to do a follow up and feature your question. So until next time, stay balanced, stay gritty, and give yourself some grace. See y'all
Bye.
later.
All right.